Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we dive into the minds of world leaders and public figures, using a mix of psychology, science, and just a pinch of tactful humor. Today's topic is intense. What happens to a president, specifically Donald Trump, after not one but two assassination attempts? What would these kinds of events do to the psyche of someone already under an extreme spotlight? Grab some popcorn, because this is going to be one wild psychological deep dive. It's not a conspiracy video, folks, just some facts, science, and a bit of humor to lighten the load. Let's start with some basics. Psychologically speaking, running for president is not for the faint of heart. You're dealing with extraordinary stress, endless public scrutiny, and the weight of leading a country that's, well, often divided. According to the Journal of Political Psychology, candidates who make it far in US politics tend to have some key traits: high levels of narcissism, resilience, ambition, and an unshakable belief in themselves. I mean, you have to believe you can fix 300 million people's problems in 4 years, right? That's some next-level confidence. Now, let's sprinkle in Trump-specific traits here. Love him or hate him, Donald Trump exhibits traits that psychology experts often discuss when talking about high-profile leaders. His grandiosity, his need for admiration, his frequent use of self-referencing language like I and me, these are all signs of what psychologists call narcissistic personality traits. Mind you, these traits aren't necessarily bad for a leader. They can lead to bold decision-making and a thick skin. But when things like assassination attempts come into the mix, well, we enter a whole different psychological territory. Now, assassination attempts aren't exactly new for US presidents. Let's take a look back at history. President Ronald Reagan survived a famous assassination attempt in 1981, and afterward, his resilience and optimism seemed to only grow stronger. His approval ratings surged as the public saw him as a symbol of strength. The same happened with Theodore Roosevelt. He was shot during a speech and kept on speaking for 90 minutes. I mean, that's gotta leave an impression, right? Can you imagine the guy just standing there going, "Oh, that? Just a flesh wound." Now, back to tariffs. Psychologically, these assassination attempts can make a leader seem invincible. It's almost like they've survived a modern gladiator match, and now they come out stronger on the other side. The public, oddly enough, often responds to this with increased support. It's the ultimate test of resilience. Now, let's take all of that and apply it to Trump. He's no stranger to public attacks, political, media-based, and personal. From the day he announced his candidacy in 2015, he's faced everything from harsh criticism to legal battles. Trump has always framed himself as the outsider battling an unfair system. So, if he were to survive multiple assassination attempts, his psyche, already fortified by years of controversy and conflict, could be even more reinforced. Psychologists like John Gartner have spoken about Trump's malignant narcissism, a term that combines narcissism with antisocial behavior, paranoia, and sadism. But even if you don't buy into all of that, most psychologists agree Trump exhibits extreme self-assurance. Whether this is a defense mechanism or genuine, the man has a way of turning adversity into a rallying cry. It's always us versus them, whether it's the media, the deep state, or now, perhaps, the assassins. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump tweeted, "Even the bullets are rigged." All jokes aside, multiple assassination attempts wouldn't just play into Trump's narrative of being a persecuted underdog. They'd fuel it, and his supporters could rally around this even more fiercely. Remember, to many of his followers, Trump isn't just a candidate, he's a movement. When we look at how past presidents reacted to assassination attempts, we see varying degrees of calmness and resolve. Reagan famously joked about it while recovering in the hospital, saying, "I forgot to duck." Even Andrew Jackson, who survived an assassination attempt in 1835, was reportedly angry but unfazed, later hunting down his attacker. Trump, on the other hand, has a more combative style. He's known for lashing out at his critics and doubling down when attacked. Given that history, it's likely that Trump would approach this situation similarly. using the attempts as proof of how dangerous the establishment or radical left is, depending on his angle. And if history has taught us anything, surviving something as extreme as assassination attempts tends to boost a leader's image, making them seem almost untouchable. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. How does this all play into Trump's current psychological state in the 2024 election? By surviving 2 assassination attempts, Trump would likely emerge with a reinforced sense of his own invulnerability. From a psychological standpoint, assassination attempts can heighten paranoia, but in Trump's case, that could translate into even more defiant behavior. Supporters may view him as someone who literally dodges bullets for his cause, which, in an election year, could provide a psychological edge. Just like with Reagan and Roosevelt, surviving something like this could tip the scales in his favor with some voters, especially those who admire his resilience and toughness. At this point, I think the only thing left is for Trump to trademark the phrase, "You can't kill Trump," and slap it on some MAGA hats. So, what have we learned? Assassination attempts for any president are a pivotal psychological event. For Trump, these incidents could fit perfectly into his survivor narrative, potentially making him even more popular with his base. From a psychological perspective, he's likely to emerge even more self-assured, doubling down on his public persona as the ultimate outsider fighting against the odds. In the end, these events, while terrifying, may very well strengthen his image heading into the 2024 election. That's all for today's deep dive into the mind of Donald Trump. Let me know in the comments what you think. How would assassination attempts change Trump's approach? And do you think this would impact his run for 2024? Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more content like this.